moving ahead and just looking into, a typical MPLS deployment, just simplified deployment here. And we all know that, if you deploy an MPLS network, it's not provider agnostic. You can't optimize your bandwidth. You basically sign up to a long-term contract to be able to connect your branches together, connect to your data centers, and maybe you can manage to get some cloud connectivity there as well. You're not going to be very dynamic with your bandwidth requirements. If you want to make changes, it's going to take days, if not weeks, to get that in place, and you'll have to renegotiate typically a long-term lock-in contract for that as well. And in many cases, you're backhauling a lot of your branch traffic into a data center. So those branches are quite tied to a data center. They're not free to do what they want. They're not free to go directly to cloud. So they're really at the mercy of that rigid MPLS network. But let's not forget the MPLS network has done excellent job for many, many years. It has been reliable. And if you're going to replace it, you need to have something with reliability, with low latency, and with quality in there as well. If we look at that transition from MPLS to SD-WAN next. So the goal is maybe you want to eliminate MPLS, or you want to reduce the size of your MPLS network. Maybe you just want to take all of the edges off and keep a core MPLS. Or maybe, like I said, you want to replace that entirely. So you want to have predictable latency. You want loss-sensitive applications to have low latency requirements so that they can be served correctly out to the branches. So if you're deploying an SD-WAN solution and you're using an internet underlay, you can connect that, target that towards the nearest Megaport virtual edge or multiple virtual edges for resilience. And then you're onto the private network, which can get you back to the data center if you have applications there that you want to reach. So you're trying to maximize that private connectivity and that private network and minimize that internet connectivity. So that's one example of branches to data center. What if you want to do branches to branches? So you're going from one region to another region. You can connect the branches in each region to their nearest Megaport virtual edge and then use the MVE to connect those together. Now that could be a global connection from, US to Tokyo, Sydney to London, whatever it is, but it can also be around the European region as well, improving that connection from London to Frankfurt, from Paris to Amsterdam, for example, gathering those branches and then allowing them to connect over a private connection to each other and getting a better quality experience. Of course, inside a metro, you might have branches connecting to each other, which comes under the control of the SD-WAN solution, and that will understand how to select the path to get to the MVE, to get to other regions based on the policy that you set up in each region. So what about connecting to cloud? Typically, we see our customers and enterprises out there backhauling data to a data center. So those branches are pretty tied. If you connect the branches into a Megaport virtual edge, they can go directly to SaaS and IaaS services in their local region. So you can free them up from that tie back to a data center. And indeed, you can get to cloud service providers in any region around the world from that Megaport virtual edge. So Megaport has the largest deployment of cloud connectivity in the world, and you can go to any of those clouds from any Megaport virtual edge. So it's really powerful and gives you the control to provision those services. You can decide on the data rates to the cloud. You can decide what services you deploy when, immediately under your control. And then as you're connecting from one set of branches in one region to another set of branches, like we saw on the previous slide, you can also connect to cloud from each of those at the same time. So you're doing branch to branch, but also you're doing branch to cloud. And you're trying to maximize your exposure to a private network that's under your control and flexible without any lock-in contracts. We can sign up to long-term contracts for cost benefits there as well. But if you want to keep it without any lock-in terms, then you can do that as well. Okay, so let's look at if you're an enterprise, you've got an MPLS connection back to your data center today. We've got this simplistic view here at the bottom of a single branch doing that. If you want to start making that transition across to SD-WAN, you can connect that branch over the internet connection that's probably already there, target that Megaport virtual edge, and build all of the elements here in red. The only physical element that you need to build in this diagram is the cross connect, the physical cross connect from the customer router into a Megaport physical port in a data center. And you can usually get that done in between 2 and 5 days in a data center. The rest of this is all done through configuration within the Megaport console. So nice and easy, allows you to make that transition. If you want to then remove that MPLS network at the bottom, you can do so later. Or indeed, if you just want to reduce the size of that and take a lot of cost out of it, you could use that as maybe a DR or a multiple path, or for you to have multiple underlays there as well. So we can help you with that as well, and my solution architect team can help you work on those architectures. All right, so the final piece is if you've got an existing SD-WAN deployment. So we looked earlier at MPLS networks, and now you've deployed your SD-WAN solution on top of that. So you're using some of your MPLS network, but now you're starting to use your internet connectivity. You've got IPsec tunnels going between data centers and branches and branch to branch. That's fine in small geographies. Once the geographies start to get bigger, you're going from European country to European country. That starts to get more complex. It gets more difficult to reach higher data rates as well. And you might have some connectivity going to cloud, which is over the internet, and that's not optimal. You're paying higher egress fees for those as well. So what we would suggest is to use the virtual edge to sort of regionalize this traffic. So get your branches to connect to the nearest Megaport virtual edge over a short internet hop, and then the rest is entirely private. That means you're going to have private connectivity to the cloud providers through their standard interfaces, you know, the Microsoft Azure Express routes, the AWS Direct Connects, Oracle Fast Connect, etc. And then it also allows you to get that branch to branch communication and that branch to data center as well. So you can see here now we're freeing up the branches to go directly to cloud, which is what many of them, I'm sure, would want to do to get themselves a better user experience so that they're not tromboning their traffic back to a DC and sharing a cloud connection.